Hey, what's going on, Sportscards fans? Ray from Philly here, and welcome to another episode of what I like to call Sports Card Memories, where we delve into collectors in the YouTube community about their whole history of collecting, the past, how they got started, their influence, who got them started, what got them started, the present, what they're doing today, and what is their future goals, and what are their objectives, and what they would like to accomplish in the hobby. Today, on episode number 3, I'm really grateful and honored to have a friend of mine who I met last year in Atlantic City at the National, and that is George of Diamond Yard Sports Cards. So how you doing, George? Thanks for coming on.
I'm doing great, Ray. Thank you for having me. This is a cool format, and I appreciate you, getting in contact with me. It was great to
Yeah,
meet you in Atlantic City. I know we have been communicating versus messages, on YouTube because we collect kind of similarly. And
yeah.
so, thanks again for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. No problem. And we have a sort of connection here with the Philly area. We've been talking about that. So I didn't know that. So that was really cool. If you want to tell anybody the connection with the Philly, how you have your wife's from Philly, I think you said.
Yeah,
Or
my wife and her sisters were born in Philadelphia. My father-in-law was born in Philadelphia. My mother-in-law was born in Philadelphia. So uh,
awesome.
we're all like by default, I'm an Eagles fan after the Cardinals, and yeah, they actually, my father-in-law I think grew up kind of relatively near where you're
Yeah.
at,
Yeah.
and we talked at the high schools, Father Judge High Schools, where he
Oh
went
yeah, yeah, yeah,
way back, like I
yeah,
think he graduated in 1960. But anyway,
yeah.
uh,
That's cool, man. That's really cool. All right, so let's get started, and let's get started with the past. Like, how long have you been collecting? Like, roughly around what year did you start collecting, and what was your influence, or what was the person or thing that got you started in collecting?
that's a lot. uh, it's started, when we're kids, and I was just like all of us, pretty much. We didn't. This is pre-video games because I'm
Yeah,
51, so remember a time like you do, and probably
yeah,
like a lot of viewers do, where there were like 3 channels or
yeah,
5, including UHF or whatever, PBS, maybe 5 channels. And so
yep,
you were looking for stuff to do, and boys kind of, mostly boys, did kind of the same stuff.
right,
We played sports, and we were outside a lot because our moms probably kicked us out of the house and said, "Don't come back for a
absolutely,
while."
absolutely.
So the card thing was, I got influenced by the older kids on the block because I don't have any brothers.
Okay,
And so the older kids on the block were collecting, and I'm like, "What's that?" And these cards were so colorful, and
hmm,
the games were on TV, whatever, football or whatever. There's a lot of football on, but baseball.
yeah,
And so, and growing up in Arizona, we didn't have any sports teams,
right,
so it's a kind of transient state. So a lot of the older kids, came from different parts of the country. Like, we moved there when I was 4, and so they were from different areas. So I happened to get influenced by an older boy there who was a Vikings fan, and so he had a lot
okay,
of Vikings cards. And so I liked purple, so I just became a Vikings fan. And I started collecting, Chuck Forman's and Ahmad Rashad's and
yep,
Fran Tarkington's and stuff
Grant
like that.
Tarkenton, yep,
Yeah. So, and then, but that was, I was really little, but I probably started collecting and buying packs. I think I can remember probably the first pack, like 78.
okay,
Um, but then didn't really like get into it until 81 or so. And I think I was
hmm,
about 9, and everybody was on the hunt for this guy, Fernando.
Fernando. Well,
Fernando.
the Fernand.
Yeah.
There's no O at the end of that card.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll show that. Yeah, Fernand Valenzuela.
Yeah.
And I don't even think as a kid I caught that. I was just
Yeah.
so happy. Like, I got a Fernando.
Yeah.
You
I didn't know till like 20 years later. So
know? So that was kind of the start of it from a young age. And my grandfather was a baseball fan, and grew up in Chicago, and then lived in DC most of his whole life. And so he was a Senators and a Cubs, Senators and White Sox fan. And
okay.
so then he like gave me all these baseball books, and started to really get me into baseball. And I sort of like baseball more and more.
Right.
Once you get over the fact that you don't do much most of the
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
playing. It takes a little while to learn how to watch baseball.
Right.
But anyway, so my grandfather was a big influence, and then my mom was like, whatever I wanted. She figured if I was spending my allowances on sports cards, that was probably better than other things.
Right. Absolutely.
And so
did you collect sets or did you just put stuff in binders, or like what were some of the main way how you collected back then, just by teams or rookies?
yeah, I don't know. You just tried to find, well, when you're younger, I just wanted to get the guys who had the like all-star banner.
Right.
Here's a 77 Carew. And I didn't know who the real good players were then. So this was a good direction
Right. Nice.
to go, and I'm
Right.
looking for a Bobby Grich all-star and a
Yep.
Steve Garvey all-star.
Right.
So that I collected those. That kind of was the, and then NBA cards too, like in the 79 NBA, there's the all-star basketball or whatever. And so, you just kind of collect them like that. And so I started to learn more and more about how good the players were, and, watch them in my area. We had the Suns here in Phoenix, but that was the only sports franchise we had that was big league sports franchise.
So who was your favorite baseball player at that time? If you didn't have a team there, was it Rod Carew? I know you're a big Rod Carew fan. Was it Carew back then?
That was that Minnesota influence of this older boy, and he loved the Twins too. And so I started following Rod Carew, and then when Carew because when we living in Arizona, you were a fan of typically baseball wise of the Angels or the Padres or the Dodgers.
So when he went to the Angels, that was like a dream then, because he went there, I think, like 1980 or 79. 79. Yeah. Same year Pete Rose went to the Phillies.
Yeah. And I think he was the they like leapfrogged who was the highest paid guy in baseball. Yeah. And I think then the next year Nolan Ryan went to Carew was the highest paid, like Winfield, and then Carew went there, and then the next year Ryan went to the Astros and he got paid more.
The Phillies that offseason, we were told 100 times that the guy that we were getting was Rod Carew, and I was stoked, because Rod Carew was the man. And then we find out, like, at the last minute, overnight, I wake up the next morning, we have Pete Rose. Not that that was a bad swap, but we were just like, we were ready for Rod Carew. But you guys got Rod Carew, and you had Don Baylor and Bob Boone ended up going over there, and Bobby Grich. I mean, there was just some stellar teams in the late 70s, early 80s for sure.
Oh yeah, and they kind of blew it numerous times. Like they were up on the Orioles, I think in 79, 2-0 in the ALCS, and then they were up on the Brewers in 82. I vividly remembered 82, the last at bat of that series, and Carew was up, and he scalded a ball up the middle, and it would have, like, I think, tied the game.
Yeah.
But they had moved Yount to play kind of closer, shifted him.
Right.
And then he caught this line drive from Carew, and that ended the series. And then they went on to play the Cardinals, who I think won in 82.
Yeah. That was Donnie Moore, right? 82?
86.
86 was Donnie Moore. But there was another pitcher in 82 that gave up a big, I can't remember. I don't know if it was Ray Burris or I can't remember, but yeah, good team stuff. Fred Lynn ended up going there. So it was pretty stacked. So we're going to move forward then. When did, like, today or in the past few years, like, how long have you been on YouTube, and what is your goals now today? Or do you mainly collect graded cards, or you do raw, and what would you prefer?
Yeah, I'm going to go back real quick to your question about set collecting.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong, but this is what I believe about set collecting. In my age group, kind of the guys that started collecting during the Fernando era, I don't know if a lot of us were set collectors. Like, I only put together like 3 or 4 sets in my whole life. Because I got frustrated. And one was 84 Topps. I tried to put together 84 Donruss set. I still have it, and it's missing like 20 cards. But I didn't get the sense of excitement from the completion of the set, like a lot of guys who were a little older. Like the guys who collected hardcore in like the 70s and earlier. I mean, like in 75 and earlier, they seem to really gravitate towards building sets.
Right.
And when I sell a lot of old cards, vintage cards, I think the customers are typically older guys who are building a 65 Philadelphia football set or a 72 Topps basketball set. But I just, not that I'm not poo-pooing set collecting, but it wasn't something like I was trying to get as many Fernandos as I could get.
And it didn't make sense to me back then either to put together players that are common players and guys that I didn't really care about, like on the Phillies, like, all right, I got a 79 Jerry Martin or Terry Harmon or Tommy Hutton. Like, I didn't care. I wanted, when I was putting binders together back in the day, it was mainly all-stars. I
Mhm.
was putting together, all the all-star first baseman, and I did it by position: first baseman, second baseman, short. And I didn't put a set together in numerical order. All the ones that weren't all-stars went into my cigar box, and I put all the all-stars together in the binders because, it takes a lot. It's a lot of patience to build and looking for cards of common players. And I tip my hat off to people that can put sets together because it's a lot of patience in
It
doing
is.
that.
I can remember sitting in my room collating this 84 Donruss set and then going to the card shop, looking through these rows of 84 Donruss for I don't know, Pete
Ups.
Falcone.
Yeah.
I don't, and like you said, Jerry Remy
Craig Swan.
yeah,
All
Bobby Vita. And I just wasn't like, and I found myself spending all this time. And meanwhile, I had all these other cards that weren't organized. And I felt like I
right.
needed to organize them. And, when I sat at the baseball card shop for I don't know about you, but my parents would take me to this one shop, the ballpark.
Right.
And
Right.
it was a great shop. And my mom would go to the mall, which was like a mile away. My dad would take her, then they'd come back and get me. And
Right.
so that time was really valuable, man. I was there
Right.
for, I only had like an hour and 15 minutes. And it's
Right.
like, you're a kid, you're like looking forward to this all week. You saved your money. And I'm like, I found myself looking for, like I said, Pete Falcone, Dave Steve, and Dave Steve's
Right.
don't get me wrong. And then all of a sudden my there's my dad. We got to go. And I'm like, well, I'm not even, I didn't even have a chance to look at or anything. So this is what bogged me about like set collecting. It just kind of turned me off.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if now, I understand it more, and like I really like I can see how people are on these quests for these sets, and like when you're like Chuck, Northside guy, is collecting certain T206s and
Right.
trying to do that. They're so beautiful, and I can see that, or putting it with 33 Gaudy or just even 35 Gaudy.
Right.
But to put together sets of like mass produced cards is not, even now, it's not something I'm too interested in at all,
Right. And that's where we moved now to where we're at today, where there's different kinds of set building now, which you and a lot of people are familiar with what I do, which is graded set registries, where now it's just targeted. Instead of the whole set, it could be, a year, a certain year, the Hall of Fame set for that year. If you want to do the 67 PSA top set registry, or 500 home run club or 3,000 hit club, we're in a different generation now where there's a different kind of set. So that moves us into today. Like, so what do you do now today, now that you're not doing sets? So what is your main target in the present?
I'm trying to get older, more rare cards in my personal collection, or
Right.
maybe higher grade cards of the last like 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do gravitate towards low grade, high eye appeal, older cards. Now,
absolutely.
I mean, and let me see here if I can give you an example. And you guys have seen this stuff on my channel, but like, here's a 49 Bowman Jackie and a 1.5.
Oh,
and it's just a 1.5.
But it's beautiful.
But it's a nice one. And and I was like, and when I put it out, I have it for sale at shows, but I like a bigger number on it.
Right.
And when I put it out, people are like, oh, that's a nice 1.5. Well, you look at it, up close and you can see some creases. But like, I try to, I guess, what about like 10 to 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
Right.
This is going to sound strange, but it's the truth. There was the pre-war, the trimming scandal, right? For all the graded cards.
Right.
And so I had no idea how deeply this went, and nobody really did. But I suspected that, so I started to modify my collecting and said, well, who's trimming a 1.5? As long as I can find a nice one, I'm not impervious to this, but so I just tried to collect these lower grade, nicer cards of all-time Hall of Famers.
Right.
And and really enjoyed that, and frankly enjoyed the quest of trying to find like a nice one. Here's like a 2 of a Mays rookie.
Awesome.
And it's a 2, but it's a really nice 2. And it takes a while to find a card like this. And again, I can't afford to buy like a 6.
Right.
So
that's eye appeal. That's what I try and describe to younger collectors today. What does the term eye appeal mean? To me, eye appeal is when you look at a card, arm's length. You put the card in your hand and you look at it like this in front of you. That's eye appeal. Now, looking at it under a loop, that's not eye appeal. That's where you're examining the card. You're looking for every little nook and cranny, any crease or any ding in the corners or the side. That's not eye appeal. Eye appeal is how do you normally look at a card? You look at it like this. You don't look at it under a loop. You look at it like this. That's the eye appeal. And if it looks good this way, like the centering's good, it has great eye appeal. You don't see the creases when you hold a card like this. You just mainly can see the centering, but you don't really see the rounded corners or dings or anything like that. And I totally agree with you. Like actually the one I'm showing now, the 65 Hank Aaron, that's a 4.
Yeah.
And that centering is great. That's like, looks, it's great.
What you're saying is totally, I'm on board with you, and I agree with you completely, because when I hear eye appeal, an example of eye appeal is this. When somebody looks at a card, whether you're a consumer and you're looking at a card at a show, or you're a dealer and you have your case out, and somebody looks at the card and says, why is that a 4? Eye appeal, right?
That's eye appeal.
It looks like it's a 7. Why?
Right.
Because if you can't figure it out immediately, then it's a nice card. Now you might look at it and it's got a wrinkle or something.
And if you look at it under a loop or anything else or a magnifier, that's not looking at it from an eye appeal perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah,
holding it in your hand in front of you and how it looks like that's how everyone looks. That's how you look at a card. I don't go around looking at things under a loop, and you just hold it in your hand, and if it looks great there, that's eye appeal.
Yeah, and then you're not a machine, right?
No.
I'm not walking with loops on my glasses.
I'm not the $6 million man with showing my age. I know.
Yeah.
So do you collect both PSA, SGC when it comes to graded? Do you prefer? It doesn't matter.
I collect nice cards. I try to. I mean, I'm not trying to. I try to collect as nice cards as I can find. And I'll give you an example. And some you can get deals on. I don't care that this 55 Bowman Mantle is a 5.5 BVG, right? It's awesome. A BVG, but it's a nice mantle. Right. It's centered. I know I could crack it out. I could send it to PSA. I could I've tried to cross it. It didn't cross, but it's regarding the grading companies, I will obviously I gravitate towards PSA and SGC mostly. Okay. And I really like SGC a lot. And I like what they're doing, and they just, PSA is the big dog. And if you come by my table at shows, I tend to make some significant criticisms of PSA. Right. But, they have something that SGC doesn't, and that's these different registries. Right. And these registries, so many people and close friends of mine and people are collecting these registry cards. Now I'm on the registry for a couple players like Jackie and Hank and Mays. Right. But I don't search the registry. If I see a card, like I have a Jackie Leaf, 49 Leaf 49. That's for Dave, Blue Jacket. 49 Leaf. I have a 49 Leaf Jackie, and all my other Jackies that I own and all my doubles and all that are all PSA except for the rookie. And that's SGC because I found a nice one, and it was nicer than the other 2 I found in a PSA. Right. And so I bought it. Now, I mean, am I going to upgrade later? Maybe, but I'm not married to PSA. But again, I'm not doing the registry. You do the registry for different things for the 300 great cards. And I love following those videos.
Thanks.
So,
I got started in that, like if I had to do it all over again, I wish I can do other grading companies now, but I got started. I got back into it in 2015, and someone suggested doing a set registry, and I didn't even know what they were talking about, and only PSA did it. So now I'm locked in, which if I could reverse the clock, it might be a different story for me. Like I might be doing whatever, PSA, SGC, a combination of
Mhm.
whatever, but now I'm so locked in. It's yeah, I'm locked in. So I have to collect nothing but PSA for registries, which is crazy because there's so many things going on. I like the competition, to see another company come in. It just makes everyone else better.
Yeah. And again, I'm a huge fan of SGC, and they have a
And they've done
special
a
right
great
now.
job. Yeah, they've done
Yeah,
a
it's
great job.
$15 a card, 5 to 10 business days. I mean, I'm sitting on, I got cards that are going to go off to them, real soon. Jim
Nice,
Brown,
nice.
there's Jackie here, 56 Jackie, rival fence busters.
Right.
So, I mean, these cards are going to go off to SGC, and I don't.
And you'll have them back in less than a month, like a couple
Oh
of
yeah,
weeks.
yeah. And it's like I was at a show recently. I would show the card, but I don't have it with me.
Mhm.
I did the Burbank show in Anaheim,
Okay.
and big show. I mean, it was not as big as the National, but probably 800 tables at least.
Wow,
And
that's big.
yeah, it was nice. It was good. I picked up a T206 portrait cob, a red portrait cob,
Mhm.
in a trade, and the guy had he had two cobs, and
Wow.
it was amazing. But he had two cobs, and one was an old flip, green flip, SGC 2.5, and he had a PSA 3. And I looked at him, and the old flip SGC 2.5 looked way better.
Yeah.
Centering was better, the registration was better. The PSA 3 cob's eyes almost looked like he had four eyes because it was like a
Right.
double print. And so we made a trade, and it all worked out. Well, I immediately went downstairs and gave the card to SGC to reholder it in the tuxedo flip. This card's still a 2.5. I don't,
Right.
necessarily buy into the idea that all cards that were graded, 10 years ago would not get the same grade today.
That was going to be my next question. Like, what are your thoughts on that now? Where I'm seeing, say, an old PSA flip that starts with the number 0. You could tell it's from 20 years ago, and it's a 4, and the card looks like it'd be run over by a truck, and it's a 4.
Mm-hmm.
And if that same card today would be graded a 1. Now, what are your philosophies or thoughts on older flips and newer flips? Like, do you think it matters if it's a PSA 5, let's say, and it was graded 20 years ago? It's a 5. Now everyone's saying, well, it would be different today, so it really wouldn't be a 5 today. It might be a 3. That's where I'm having trouble with when, not just PSA, but even SGC.
Well, if you PSA's grading for the last like 20 years or 25 years, I believe, would be worthless if they didn't back the grade that they put on the card, whether it was from 1988 or was from 2004, 2014, 2023.
Yep.
And I think just like in the past, some cards are undergraded, some cards are overgraded. I can't presume now that like, oh, they're tougher now. I've seen cards, Ray. I've seen cards recently come back and they're like PSA 10s. I have a friend. He got a Brady rookie in a PSA 10.
Right.
When he sent it in, he's like, I'm just going to send this in. I know it's going to get like an 8 because it has like a ding on the bottom edge, like it's dented in.
Right.
He smoothed it over a little bit, but it's still dented, whatever. And he's like, I just need to get an 8 because I want to flip the card, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
He gets it back from PSA. And this is in a lighthouse.
Right.
This is in the brand new lighthouse holder and all that. And it gets PSA 10. So what do you do then? Do you as a dealer, do you sell the card as it is and just say, hey, buyer beware? Do you tell them, hey, this has got a ding on the bottom. It isn't a PSA 10 holder. And they might say, well, boy, it was graded a long time ago. It's like, no, it was graded like 3 weeks ago.
Now, yeah.
Yeah. And another thing too, is, I'm sure that guys in the community could figure some of this out, but these cert numbers, I mean, you can say it as a 0 cert number and it's an older flip. But unless when they started like certain things, doing certain things,
right.
It's hard to tell. And I had a guy, for example, at the show recently in Anaheim. He walked by my, and I have, I've got a lot of lighthouse flips, but then I've got like, here's a Jerry West and a 9 from 72. Nice. It's a hologram flip. It's not a lighthouse holder flip.
Right.
And he walks by and he says, "Oh, you get a lot of nice cards here, but I see that 25% of them are not in a lighthouse holder." He's like, "I don't buy cards that are not in a lighthouse holder." And I said, "All right, dude, I would buy this 1977 Dr. J in a 9 in an old grade. It's a nice card."
Absolutely. They don't realize that can be crossed. You can reholder it in a lighthouse holder, and the
Yeah.
grade's not going to change. You
Yeah.
can request that card that's in the 0 code or a hologram and have it reholdered. Okay, now you
Yeah.
got a blue flip, but the
Mhm.
grade didn't change. So I don't understand why someone would be like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, I understand that you can I think as a general proposition, if it's an older flip, they might have been a little bit more lenient as a general proposition. But
Right.
to say that that applies to everything is not true. And I think that there's a lot of nice cards that are in older holders that, frankly, if you snap them out, they might even get a higher grade now.
Yeah,
So I think
I've seen that.
yeah, it's all card specific. I mean, I had a 7.5 60 Hank Aaron, and it was in an older holder, and I thought this card's really nice, so I submitted it in the holder for review, and they gave it an 8. They bumped it up, and that's a big. These are no 10s to this 1960 Hank Aaron. Right. That's a big bump, even though it's only half a grade. But here's an example. Here's a Satchel Paige from.
Oh my God.
This is a 53 top Satchel Paige in a 4. And the cert number starts with a 1. I just got this reholdered. I don't care.
That's awesome.
But this, I get stuff reholder all the time. I have 25 cards there right now for reholder. And I did a video on this in the past. But I guess what I'm saying is that you really it's so card specific that I don't think that you can't foreclose. I know people foreclose your options. If you want to have nice cards, the nicest possible cards, you can't foreclose your options and say, "Well, I only buy PSA. I don't buy Beckett. I only buy new flips." It's just to me that's collecting the holder and the company. That's not collecting the card.
Right.
And I think at the end of the day, we all are collecting cards. And
right.
So I think these cards are beautiful, and I think that they, whatever holder you have. Here's an example. Here's a 35 Gaudy 4-in-1 Bill Dickey and Lazeri, and it's a 5.5. And I think that this card was a 5.5 today too. It doesn't have the whole. I'm going off on this, but it doesn't have a lighthouse. But it's a nice card. It's a nice card.
Yeah.
It was not expensive. 5 years ago, not expensive. But anyway, I hope that answers some of your.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about? I'm hearing some slight rumors that PSA, for example, might be doing more technology type driven grading, AI, whatever you want to call it. And the CSO was just on somebody's YouTube channel. I can't remember who, saying that they'll never really fully go 100%. And I agree. You shouldn't. They shouldn't go fully 100% AI or just technical grading. You can't take the human element out of it. And main reason why is a couple things, like you can't smell the card. I mean, when a machine starts smelling, we're all in deep trouble. And when robots or computers are going to start smelling cards, something's really wrong. I mean, you can't take the human element out of it, in my opinion, where you got to hold the card, you got to feel it, and literally smell the card, and for authenticity purposes alone. I mean, I know a computer might be able to see all the little dings and scratches and the surface abrasions on there, but I know they're using more of the technology, but I don't think they'll fully ever go 100% taking the human element out of it. What do you think? You think that's a good idea if they did? Or
I agree with you. I have some theories that I can only go off of what my experience has been with PSA recently, especially since they purchased this company called Genamint the year and a half, 2 years ago, to aid them in their grading, because they're were crushed by that wave of cardboard, and I don't know if this is true, but this is my. You're right, by the way. I think I agree with you completely that people need to be grading cards, and that's what the eye appeal is, the human eye appeal. How does it look to you? Now, certainly there's technical stuff that these computer programs can catch. What I really do like is that they're they're doing images of the cards when they grade them. I do like that. There's no excuse not to do an image of every
Right.
card. Because like when you're on eBay looking at a card and the guy's got blurry pictures and you send him a scratch on a card or something, you send him an
Right.
email, hey, does this on the card, the holder? If I could just go to PSA and look at the picture, I can figure it out probably.
Right.
I have more data and more images to look at.
Right.
But
Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for them adding more technology to advancement to get a more accurate grading. I just don't want to see them go fully 100%.
yeah, I think their problem. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, I don't think it would be a good idea because, like I said, just for the authenticity purposes alone, you need a person grading it. I mean, I hear all these stories about people saying, well, the grader could have a bad day that day. True, but if you're going to, I think it's going to really, if you have computers grading it at 100%, you're running a risk of authenticity rather than having just a person feeling it, touching it, and literally smelling it, because it does have a card, especially old vintage cards. You could tell the smell of the cardboard and the feel of it, the texture of it. I hope to God they never do. But I like the ideas. I like where they're going with the technology, and it does make some things better, especially for security reasons and how they're going to be adding more security, possibly from people cracking cards out and putting different cards in. So I'm glad for that. But
yeah, my theory is since they picked up this Genament technology, I have found that their PSA, not SGC, PSA, that their grading is far more inconsistent. I used to do submissions, and I've been submitting to them since 2005. I had one pop yesterday, 46 card modern submission.
Right.
And it just feels like some of the results are random. I have not changed the way I look at cards. I have not changed, how I analyze a card. Frankly, they give you can use a centering tool or whatever.
Right.
But I used to get a high gem rate on modern cards. And yesterday, I think the grades popped 46 modern cards. I got 10 10s. Now and I'm not saying that I'm a great grader, but that's a little bit low that's low.
That's a little bit low. Yep. That is a little low.
And and these cards are like from the 90s and up, these are not like 2000. I mean, there's a couple of Otani rookies or whatever, but I guess what I'm saying is that I think if you look throughout the community, there are a lot of people who are well respected in the community who do, submissions and do reveals, and they're getting the same kind of treatment, as I call it. They're and I suspect that they are still having problems calibrating their software for these cards, because you have so many sets and so many, and they have different parameters for certain tolerances for certain things, and every set is different, and that's why you're supposed to go to these experts, because they know the 81 Fleer set. Here's a Fernando again. 81 Fleer has problems, and when it's cut, it's got like hair on it. Like, for example, I came across a bunch of O-Pee-Chee hockey, 84 O-Pee-Chee hockey, and I submitted every single Gretzky and the Yzerman rookie and the Chelios rookie. And, they all have hair because that's the way the Peachy is. That's the way they were cut.
Right.
And it seemed like the grader or the computer didn't seem to understand that.
Right.
And so, the highest grades I got were 8s, 6s to 8s. And these cards were like pack fresh. They weren't all 50-50 centering, but they didn't have dings in them. But this is an example of I think that this technology can be helpful, but you can't just have it grading cards and not be calibrated appropriately.
There's things that have to be taken into consideration. That's where a human can pick up on. That's why I don't mind having them use some technology, but you still need that. You absolutely can't take the human out of it 100% and move them aside. You need those eyes and the feel and sense of smell and all that.
Yeah. And this is why people love SGC, because PSA is just a more technical grader, right?
Yeah.
And so when you've got older vintage cards, and you want to get a company that's going to appreciate the eye appeal and look at it. Like, here's a card B. Ross sold me. It's a Hank Greenberg 34 Gaudy Greenberg rookie.
That's a beautiful 1.5.
And it's a nice 1.5. And
Oh my God.
it's a little baby mark on the back, on the baby mark. You can see it there, over here.
Yeah.
And it's like, PSA would just throw a 1 MK on this.
Right.
Just, okay, technically that's it. But SGC looks at it and says, boy, that marine green is really nice. The card's centered well. This card it deserves maybe a half
Yeah.
a grade more.
It's
And
it's bright too.
yeah,
Like
it's not
color.
faded out.
Oh my God.
So I think, thank you, B Roth, but he knew I was looking for one at the National. But so, that's kind of the difference. Certain cards, when I'm doing submission, I say this is an SGC card. Other ones, I say this is a PSA card.
Right.
I do not submit much to Beckett. I just haven't done it, so I don't know. I know that they're big in the modern market. I see a lot of people are buying big cards, Steph Curry's dual cert, dual autos. I get it.
So when you're collecting, you gear towards more rookies or just Hall of Fame or both rookies and Hall of Famers, like the whole gamut.
Yeah, I do Hall of Famers. I try to. That's my main collecting focus is Hall of Famers or guys who I think are going to be in the Hall of Fame.
I love that part of it. I do that as I love speculating on possible Hall of Famers.
Yeah,
It's fun to me.
Yeah, and you got like right now, Ronald Acuna. That guy's crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
I don't know why his cards haven't just exploded, frankly.
Yeah.
He's just a historic season.
Right. So moving into the future, what do you think that you like to accomplish and then like what do you want to try to do that you haven't done yet in the collecting aspect?
Well, I think that I learned a lot from YouTube, and early on, because I've been on for like maybe 5 years, and you were already on, and guys who were on before, and it talked about like collecting goals, like you have your goal with the 300 grade cards, and other set registry stuff, and Joe Silverjackify was talking about it, and so when I got onto YouTube, I started seeing guys doing this, and I'm like, I had been not setting collecting goals since I got back into the hobby in 05, which is the time I got back in. I had just been buying the best cards I could find instead of saying, I want to find a Mays rookie. If one came along, I would buy it. But I was just not very aggressive about going out and actively searching for stuff. I just watched eBay and I picked up some, you pick up some good stuff and, here's a Maravich, a 75 Maravich. It pops up. It's an 8. It's really nice. I'm like, oh, I'll buy that, and but then watching YouTube and the influence of guys like you, like all the guys who came, before me on YouTube, I'm like, I need to get more focused on some things that I want to get.
Right.
So that's the process of how it kind of, I got where I'm at now. I'm trying to add more all-time Hall of Famer T206s. I need to get the Walter Johnson. I have a Mathewson. The influence of Dave, Blue Jacket, and Rick, and Jeannie to get maybe some different rare confectionery issues. And then I'm trying to get – I love 70s basketball. And I love 70s cards in general, like you, right?
Dr. J.
Dr. J. Yeah, and it's like, here's
that's my all-time favorite.
Right? Here's one of Marky C, a friend of the channel.
Oh man!
And I'm like, it's like allegedly a piece of jersey, but I just love the 70s Sixers. So I'm trying to. I got to add a Dr. J rookie. I have the All-Star rookie, but not the actual rookie. I got to add that. I want to add more 70s basketball. I just really like it a lot.
Right.
And then, I also realize I have to get out there and I have to search for more cards. I have to be more active about if I want to find these cards and I'd like to add a 51 Bowman Mantle. I don't have a 51 Bowman Mantle.
Right.
I have to get actively out there and do it. Not just, oh, I'm going to watch the auction house. Oh, I'm going to go on eBay.
Right.
Obviously everything is time sensitive about what your life and what you're doing. But I've found that I've gotten more into dealing cards in the last 2 years.
Okay.
And so I do shows, and I've done the Long Beach Expo, and I did the Burbank show, and I'm going to do the Burbank show probably in the spring.
Right.
But doing this and getting out there and getting active with people, and I went and looked at 2 collections yesterday, and I think it's really helping me to be able to try to achieve some of these goals.
Yeah, I see a lot of people in the YouTube community are starting to do that, where they're selling cards, and that helps finance their PC.
Yeah,
It's a
and
great
it is.
idea. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and it's like setting up at shows. Being on the other side of the table as a dealer is just a lot more. It's frankly, it's more relaxing because I have great you meet great people. You get a chance to talk a lot, and you get a chance to show cards. And part of this too is what I've become a lot better at recently is letting go of some of this stuff. I know there's a lot of people in the community who say I don't sell anything, and that's fine. That works for you. That works for you. But I'm letting go of things so that I can get better things.
Exactly.
And if I want to get myself a T206 Walter Johnson, I'm going to need to get rid of a few things. It's just or trade them.
Right.
I bought this Cobb that's again being reholed at SGC, and part of that trade was a Satchel Paige photo pack, a 48 in a PSA 3, and a Koufax exhibits card signed by Koufax. Auto was a 10. So these things I didn't necessarily want to get rid of, but
you're moving up to the I totally get what you're saying. Back on the T206, I stumbled upon this podcast that it explains the whole. It's like an 11 series podcast called the Monster Podcast, and it's about the monster set, the T206, and they have it broken down into you can collect the whole set with the big 4 or without the big 4, and then he has it broken down like you can eliminate the big 4, and the big 4 being Honus Wagner, the Doyle, the McGee, and Plank. Eddie Plank. So those are the big 4. So if you the other tier, the next top tier then was the Cobbs, the Walter Johnson, Christy Mathewson, and Cy Young. The tier below that, I think, was Tris Speaker and guy like maybe Eddie Collins, things like that. But he had it broken down, and it's called the Monster Podcast, where it's doable and it's affordable. Of course, if you get rid of the big 4 and focus on the other guys, you can have 98% of that set, and it's not really. I mean, it's tough. It's very tough, but it's not. As soon as people hear that, they're like, "Oh, no way, I'm not going to tackle that." Once you get rid of the big 4, the rest of it is somewhat doable.
Yeah, and I realized selling cards. I had an older dealer. He said to me, George, the average age that I see of the T206 collector is it's males, and they're about 30. They love old tobacco cards. And I thought to myself, well, and he's like, that's why I have these at my table. And so about a week later, I went online and found a guy who was liquidating a bunch of commons, but they were good eye appeal PSA 1s to 3.5s.
Right.
And I bought like 16 of them.
Right.
And put them out at my table. And ever since then, people will walk by and, guy will be walking with his girlfriend and he points at those cards, because they look different. They're unique. They're 100 years old, more than 100 years old.
Right.
And they just, younger people especially, really like those cards. I've had guys just buy a card just like, I don't know anything about this guy, but I think this card's really cool. Here's $10, $50 or whatever. Right. But I want to go more down that road. I would like to add some Cracker Jacks to my collection. I don't have any of those. It was funny when I was at Burbank. There's a dealer there, Jay Ashish. He's got fantastic stuff.
Oh yeah, I know him from Facebook.
Yeah, he's a wonderful guy, and he goes. His son is there, and he had a Cobb, Cracker Jack Cobb in a 1.5, and it was centered. And I was just like, man, if I can sell a lot of stuff today, maybe, and take some cards over there, maybe I can work a deal with him. And so then the Cobb, I got that Cobb, and I'm thinking maybe I can try to work this. And I went the next morning. Sheesh, where's the Cracker Jack Cobb?
No,
oh, it's gone. I said, well, yeah, I sold it yesterday. Of course you did, because it's a Cracker Jack Cobb, right?
Yeah.
These kinds of cards, I would like to add some more Ruths to the collection too. I don't have many Babe Ruths. Here's one for you. I have actually a consignment that involves 33 Gaudi, and this is SGC story for you. PSA. This guy had 3 of the Ruths, and he had one Gehrig, and he had 180 of the other common cards.
Right.
And they were kind of, they were not in great condition, but they had great eye appeal.
Right.
And so I got the Ruths graded, and I was like, where am I going to go to get the Ruths graded and the Gehrig? And I chose SGC. And this is the only one. This is the 1.5 of the green Ruth. And this card is just fantastic. Now, it has a little bit of markings on the back.
Right.
I can't show you. I have a price tag on the back. But this card is fantastic. And, I'd like to add more cards like this, frankly.
Right. Right.
I have the 144 Ruth, but I don't have this one or the other 2.
Of the 4 Gaudi Roost, which one's your favorite? The greenback, that one?
Well,
I like the full pose.
Yeah, the 144. That's what I told my client. I said that he said, well, which one? Because he ended up getting a 3 on the red Ruth from SGC, and he got a 2 on the 144, and he got a 1.5 on this green Ruth.
Right.
And SGC actually called me and said, thank you so much for sending us these cards. We really appreciate your business. And, we love this stuff, and this is right up our alley. And I was like, this guy's name is Logan, and he works there. And I'm like, man, customer service. That is it. That's why.
That's right.
Anyway, so I think the 144 is the most popular. Yellow is the most tough. I don't know, though. This one is the same picture as the 35 Gaudi, where he's on the Braves.
Yeah.
Picture.
The headshot. Yeah. The 4 and 1.
And to me, this one actually looks the most like Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
Like the other ones all kind of look kind of cartoonish.
Yeah.
The yellow and the red they're all beautiful, but this actually looks more like Babe Ruth to me.
I agree. It does portray him better than the other ones.
Yeah, but these cards are just great. And just like you said, when we looked at this collection, it was in a binder. And I'm like, you need to get these cards out of this binder because it's going to break down. So my buddy, LA Collection, Levon, took one of the cards out, and he goes, and it's like, and he looks
real.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying with the human element. The touching, the smelling, the feeling, all that is very important.
Yeah. When Pepino licks the cards.
That's the authenticity right there with Pepino.
I want the Pepino stamp. It looks like Rolling Stones.
You want the lick of approval. Well, I appreciate it, man. If you have any other cards you want to show, I mean, I would be, I'm thrilled.
70s basketball. I
love 70s basketball. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I remember pulling not this card, but this card from a pack. This is a 79 Dr. J in a 9. And this is actually one where PSA gave me a good grade. I was shocked. So, no, but there's just these 70s basketball cards. And here's this is a Dan Issel, 73 Dan Issel in an 8.5.
Right.
And this card was like a 1999 or best offer.
Right.
And I sent the guy an offer for like $14, and he took it.
Oh my God. And
I'm like,
he's a Hall of Famer. Yeah,
he's an all-time great player.
Yeah.
And it's an 8.5. I mean, it costs $16 to grade this card, So, I mean, not that everybody.
Yeah, I'm looking for the Moses Malone rookie and the George Gervin rookie.
Yeah, that's 75, right?
74 or 5, yeah. But great cards.
Yeah. Here's a Kareem. This is vintage. Like, what is it? What's the Game of Death Kareem?
With Bruce Lee.
Yeah, he's wearing the big yellow outfit. But yeah, the 72 Kareem. This is an 8. Man, this card was actually really reasonable back in the day. You could get like a 9 for $200. It was crazy. Here's a Wilt and an 8. They get their jerseys backwards too because of the.
Yeah.
Right, they didn't have licensing.
Sweet.
A couple more. There's an Oscar Robertson.
There you go.
2 and a 9. But yeah, these cards, these basketball cards. I mean, I guess that's something that people don't really know too much about me. Is I like basketball cards a lot.
Yeah.
And,
that's cool. I love vintage 70s basketball cards.
Oh
without a
yeah.
doubt. Like I said, George Gervin, Moses Malone,
Hmm.
Artis Gilmore. There were some great looking cards. The Dr. J rookie's on my want list for sure.
Yeah. The J rookie too. It's like I thought for a long time, like the Clemente rookie. I was like, there's so many of them out there. I'll just wait. I'll just wait.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and then they just keep going up and up and up.
yeah.
And now I yeah. I mean, depending on what grade you want, but not that it matters. Dr. J is a Dr. J.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I really appreciate you coming on, George. I mean, we really got to discuss pretty much your whole history, the past, present, and the future. So, if you have any other last minute thoughts, make sure everyone check out George's channel, Diamond Yard Sports Cards. I'm gonna have the link down below. Great channel, great collection. So I really appreciate you, George, coming on.
yeah, Ray. Thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I think we could have just
Absolutely.
gone on for a long
Oh my
time.
God, yeah. I'm running out of time though on my recording space. I was like, yeah, we're gonna have to cut it, but I really appreciate it, man. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in for episode number 3 for Sports Card Memories, a walk down memory lane for each collector. Thanks again, George, your Diamond Yard Sports Cards, for coming on, and see everybody real soon, man. Take care.
Thanks. Keep collecting.